In a scary moment as we went to commercial, Sophie Cunningham hit the floor hard. And
Sophie Cunningham, oh man, I got to tell you, this victory, it came with a big price.
Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty player.
I'd say there's a near 0% chance that Sophie Cunningham plays again this year, for being honest.
Look at today's game where Sophie Cunningham went out in the first half. And that was such a huge blow for the Indiana Fever because Sophie Cunningham has been somebody, she has been the glue of this team since Caitlin has been out.
The Indiana Fever seem to have become the chosen victims of what feels like a brutal declaration of war from the basketball gods themselves. By taking Sophie Cunningham out of action in such a heartbreaking and almost cruel fashion, fate delivered the team its harshest blow yet. What was supposed to be just another regular matchup against the Connecticut Sun quickly spiraled into disaster. The nightmare unfolded when Bria Hartley, who often looks like she's auditioning for a rugby team rather than competing in professional basketball, crashed violently into Sophie's knee, leaving Indiana's toughest and most fearless defender crumpled on the hardwood, screaming in pain as the entire arena fell silent.
Bria Hartley has had dirty plays all season, but you got to know who we're talking about. Bria Hartley is the same girl that pulled Angel Reese out of there by her ponytail just last game, I think 2 days ago. She pulls Becca Allen by her head to the floor, and Ariel Atkins goes over there to protect her teammate. Bria Hartley has been doing dirty things for all season. She's been a dirty player.
They went at Sophie Cunningham early, and considering this is Bria Hartley, I'm not ruling out that she jumped through her knee. Considering who it is, I'm not. Like, Bria Hartley has been ejected multiple times. She's yanked Angel by the hair. This is the Connecticut Sun. This is a team that have jumped through players' knees before.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was at first when I saw her went down. So let's break down the play where Sophie got hurt. So as you can see here, Bria Hartley is going baseline. Kelsey Mitchell is guarding her, and then Sophie comes over to help. And then Bria Hartley falls on her leg, and Sophie immediately grabs like her shin area.
Every Indiana Fever fan watching that moment felt their stomach drop. The sight of Sophie clutching her right knee, tears rolling down her face, made the entire arena question whether this cursed season of endless injuries would ever truly end. It seemed like the final straw in a year that had already tested every ounce of patience and hope. But here's where the story takes a breathtaking and almost unbelievable twist. Against all odds, the Fever rallied and delivered the single greatest comeback in franchise history, doing it without their defensive backbone and with a roster that looked like it was stitched together by athletic tape, grit, and sheer stubborn willpower. What happened next didn't just challenge expectations, it outright defied logic, physics, and even common sense. This was the kind of miracle moment in sports that you only get to witness once in a lifetime. So, if you felt the same rush of adrenaline, smash that like button and drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear from the real queens of Fever Nation.
25 minutes didn't look like we had any business beating this Connecticut Sun team. For 25 minutes, we looked like the worst team on the court. Defensive rotations, Marina hitting the three, Sanaya Rivers taking it to the rim, Tina Charles, Aaliyah Edwards, out rebounding AB, Natasha Howard, but we came alive when we needed to come alive. We forced overtime. Kelsey Mitchell, back-to-back threes in OT. Lexi Holt, dagger three, putting the nail in the call.
I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you too. I'm so proud of you guys. I know that sometimes it sounds like just a word when we talk about being resilient, but it's not, man. It's how we live. Yeah. It's how y'all live, and it's a tribute to you. It's a tribute to your connectedness, your togetherness, your toughness, your mindset. You never give up gritty attitudes. Like, that's what it takes. That's what it takes, and we will never be counted out, because that is worth gold. That is worth gold.
Watching the injury unfold in real time was gut-wrenching, the kind of scene that instantly silences an arena. And by now, Every fan who has followed the WNBA this season knows exactly who Bria Hartley is and the reputation she has built for herself. This is the same player who infamously yanked Angel Reese out of the air by her ponytail, the same reckless rival who has been throwing elbows, making cheap shots, and leaving a trail of chaos on the court while somehow dodging the kind of punishment that should have sidelined her months ago. In the second quarter, Hartley lost control on a drive to the basket, and instead of a simple stumble, her body collided with Sophie's planted right leg like a wrecking ball, slamming into the foundation of a building. The impact was brutal, the outcome devastating, and it forces everyone to ask a hard question. How much longer are officials going to turn a blind eye to this kind of recklessness? Because at this rate, it's only a matter of time before someone's career isn't just threatened, it's ended for good.
Now, she was on the ground, she was crying, she was yelling. It definitely seemed like she was in a ton of pain. The training staff went over to her, they went to commercial break. Like, it was a real injury. This wasn't something, and Sophie's the type of player, a lot of times when she does get injured, she just gets right back up. She tries to walk it off. This was something that kept her down, and it was so hard to see. It is ironic because Bria Hartley has been in multiple scuffles this year with the Connecticut Sun. A lot of people would categorize her as a dirty player. Both Sophie's sister, I believe, and her mother both tweeted about this play. Now, Lindsay, her sister, said, WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you, Sophie. And then Paula, who I think is her mom, that's what the internet is saying, she said, Hartley is a disgruntled player, having trouble everywhere she goes. She's plain mean and plays out of it.
She roughs house. And Kathy Engelberg, this is why I say you wonder why there's so many goddamn injuries all over the league, because you are allowing people to play rugby and football and do UFC moves in the middle of a basketball game. In the beginning of this game, Sophie Cunningham is bringing the ball up the floor. She gets mugged, hit upside the head, knocked to the floor while dribbling the ball up the floor 75 feet away from the rim. Do you think the refs called anything?
You could feel the weight of the moment the second Sophie reacted. This isn't just any player. Sophie Cunningham has built her entire career and reputation on toughness, grit, and a relentless willpower that refuses to quit. She's the type of competitor who will dive headfirst for loose balls, take charges against players twice her size, and play through pain that would sideline most athletes. For someone like that, to see her crumble in an instant told you everything you needed to know. When she clutched her knee, tried to hop on one leg in a desperate attempt to stay in the game, and then finally collapsed to the hardwood in agony. It wasn't just a scary scene. It was the kind of chilling moment where every fan, every teammate, and even every rival knew something major had just gone horribly wrong. For Indiana, the timing could not have been worse. This is a team already hanging by a thread, piecing together lineups with little more than tape, adrenaline, and hope. Losing Sophie, their defensive backbone, their emotional spark plug, felt like ripping the heart right out of the Fever's chest. The fact that she had to be helped off the court, leaning on trainers and teammates just to make it to the tunnel, while visibly unable to put any weight on her injured leg, should have been the sad conclusion to the night. It should have been the story that defined yet another chapter in this cursed season. But here's why this entire situation becomes so much more infuriating. It didn't have to happen. This wasn't a freak accident. This wasn't bad luck. This was negligence, pure and simple. If the WNBA had been doing its job, if referees had been protecting players the way they're supposed to, this tragedy could have been avoided altogether. Because the warning signs were flashing bright red long before Sophie went down. From the very first quarter, Bria Hartley and her teammates were crossing the line, throwing elbows, delivering cheap shots, and turning a basketball game into something closer to a demolition derby. There was even a moment where Sophie was body slammed to the floor while she was dribbling the ball nearly 75 feet from the basket, and unbelievably, the referees swallowed their whistles and let play continue. When you allow that kind of chaos to fester, when players realize they can use UFC-style takedowns and rugby collisions without any fear of consequences, then it's only a matter of time before disaster strikes. Everyone in that arena knew it. Every fan watching at home knew it. And today, the inevitable finally happened. A serious injury, a preventable injury, and one that could have lifelong consequences, all because the league refused to step in before it was too late.
Connecticut Sun, by the way, if you guys have seen, they've done a lot. Like, They have done a lot of reckless things in this game that haven't led to fouls. I don't think this is... I hope this isn't reckless. I can't rule out it being reckless. I hope it's not reckless. But at the same time, like, the referees... There were so many situations earlier on in the game that, in fairness, that the referees were letting them away with. The referees thought, okay, yeah, let's tee up Sophie Cunningham straight away in the game. And that's going to, like, that's keeping the game in control. But from minute one, the Connecticut Sun... Like, how many times have the Connecticut Sun against the Fever dove through people's knees? Multiple times this team has.
You guys brag about how physical. You guys wear it like a badge of honor. We're here to watch basketball. If we want to watch wrestling, we'll watch wrestling. If we want to watch fighting, we'll watch fighting. We're here to watch basketball. And Bria Hartley is no different than Dejanay Carrington. It's just nobody talks about it because she's on the Connecticut Sun and they...
What makes this injury sting even more is the role Sophie Cunningham has carved out for herself on this Fever team, especially during the prolonged absence of Caitlin Clark. In a season where Indiana has struggled to find consistency and identity, Sophie became the one player willing to throw her body on the line, defend her teammates with fire, and bring the kind of energy and defensive edge that separates winning teams from those that collapse under pressure. She wasn't just filling a gap, she was redefining it. Since the All-Star break, Sophie has stepped up in ways few expected. She's been Indiana's most consistent and dependable presence, averaging more than 12 points per game, knocking down over 50% of her shots from beyond the arc, and showing a confidence that made her a nightmare matchup for opponents. But her impact went far beyond the stat sheet. She became the emotional heartbeat of the Fever, the kind of vocal leader who rallied her teammates when they were exhausted, who kept fighting when the scoreboard looked impossible, and who proved that leadership isn't about being flashy, it's about being relentless. That's why this injury is so devastating. For a team already hanging by the thinnest of threads in the playoff race, losing Sophie for any stretch of time is more than just a setback. It's a potential season-ending blow. She was the one player Indiana couldn't afford to lose, the glue holding together a fragile roster. And without her, the Fever's already uphill battle becomes a near impossible climb.
Sophie Cunningham was by far, as the games went along, by a landslide, the best addition we had on this roster. From her play, her shot making, her defense, the intensity she brings, the energy, her having Caitlin Clark's back and actually being willing to fight and scrap when nobody else would hold Caitlin Clark down. Sophie Cunningham said, you know what? I got you. Now she's done. The best addition we had all season.
She is playing so incredibly well during the second half of this season. She plays hard every single night. She's super tough. She doesn't make excuses. Like, she is somebody who has really held this team together.
For the Fever, the timing of this injury could not have been worse. They came into this matchup having lost 4 of their previous 5 games, already fighting to keep their playoff hopes alive, and desperately needing a win over one of the league's purest, most disciplined teams. Instead, they were dealt another crushing blow. Sophie Cunningham, their defensive anchor, looked like she might be the latest addition to a brutal list of casualties. Sydney Colson and Ari McDonald already lost for the year with injuries, and Caitlin Clark still sidelined with her groin injury, missing her 13th straight game. It felt like the basketball gods had decided to break this team down piece by piece. For Indiana, the fear wasn't just losing a game. It was the very real possibility of watching their entire season collapse right in front of them. By halftime, that fear seemed like reality. The Connecticut Sun had surged to a 19-point lead, and when they pushed it to 21 early in the third quarter, it looked like the final nail had been hammered into Indiana's playoff coffin. Most teams in that position would have folded. Most teams would have accepted defeat, shrugged their shoulders, and waited for the buzzer. But this wasn't one of those nights. This was the night the Indiana Fever refused to die. The night they turned heartbreak into magic and chaos into one of the most stunning comebacks in modern basketball history. It all started with Kelsey Mitchell. From the moment the second half began, she looked like a player possessed, as if she had decided losing was simply not an option no matter how steep the mountain became. What she did over the final 2.5 quarters was more than just basketball. It was willpower in its purest form. Mitchell scored 34 points in the second half and overtime, tying her career high of 38 after putting up only 4 points in the entire first half. Think about that. A player who seemed invisible for the first 20 minutes suddenly became unstoppable, carrying her team on her back at the exact moment when their season needed saving. This wasn't just an impressive performance, it was historic. No player in the WNBA this entire season has scored more points in a single game than Mitchell did that night. But beyond the numbers, it was about timing. It was about leadership. It was about refusing to let adversity write the ending to Indiana's season. Mitchell didn't just put points on the board. She breathed life back into her teammates, ignited the crowd, and turned what looked like a funeral march into a celebration of resilience. If there was ever a performance worthy of its own documentary, its own chapter in WNBA history, this was it. But even the numbers don't fully capture what Kelsey Mitchell accomplished that night. The stat sheet tells part of the story: 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 11, 4, 22 shooting from the floor, 5, 4, 8 from deep, and 11, 4, 12 from the free throw line. But it still falls short of describing the way she completely took over the game. Mitchell didn't just score. She controlled the pace, dictated every possession, and silenced any hope Connecticut had of putting the game away. When the Fever needed her most, she delivered in every possible way. The defining moment came in overtime, when she scored every single one of Indiana's 10 points. Back-to-back three-pointers from Mitchell didn't just swing momentum. They slammed the door shut, turning what could have been a heartbreaking loss into the greatest comeback in team history. That is what real superstars do. They rise when the lights are brightest and the pressure is suffocating, and the historical context makes her night even more legendary. By the record books, Mitchell just joined Diana Taurasi as one of only 2 players in WNBA history to record multiple games with at least 35 points, 6 assists, and 5 made three-pointers. That's not just elite company, that's basketball royalty. To put your name next to Taurasi, one of the most iconic scorers in the sport, is the kind of achievement that cements a player's legacy. And the fact that Mitchell did it in the most important game of Indiana's season, with the roster battered by injuries and the playoffs hanging by a thread, makes it even more remarkable. Still, Mitchell didn't do it alone. What made this comeback so special was the collective fight of a team that refused to quit. Odyssey Sims, making her very first start for the Fever after signing only days earlier on a hardship contract, stepped onto the floor and played like she had been part of the system all year. She finished with 19 points and 7 assists, guiding the offense with veteran composure and reminding everyone why she's still a difference maker in this league. Aaliyah Boston was equally crucial, putting together one of her most complete efforts of the season. She filled every column of the stat sheet: 14 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks, anchoring Indiana on both ends and showing why she's considered the future cornerstone of the franchise. With 44 seconds left in overtime, Lexi Hull calmly drilled a dagger three-pointer that all but sealed the victory, proving her value as a fearless role player. Natasha Howard added 18 points and provided an irreplaceable interior presence, while Brianna Turner, who hasn't logged many meaningful minutes this season, stepped up off the bench with 10 gritty minutes of defense and hustle that shifted the tone of the rally, and credit has to be given to head coach Stephanie White. With a roster stripped down to its bare bones, she somehow found the right rotations, the right matchups, and the right moments to keep Indiana alive. This wasn't just a star carrying a team. This was a full squad embracing the adversity, refusing to make excuses, and proving that resilience can be as powerful as talent. Thus, Stephanie White's strategic adjustments deserve just as much praise as her players' execution. Starting Odyssey Sims and trusting her with heavy minutes in such a critical matchup was a bold but brilliant move. Just as important, refusing to give up on Kelsey Mitchell after her cold first half showed the kind of belief championship-level coaches always have in their stars. White's growth as a leader was on full display, keeping her team locked in and motivated even after witnessing Sophie Cunningham go down in pain and drop 21 points in just 2 quarters. From a purely technical standpoint, this was a masterclass in how to survive elimination pressure. After shooting a miserable 30% in the first half and missing all 10 of their three-point attempts, Indiana roared back by shooting 46% overall and drilling 7 of 12 from deep in the second half. They dominated the offensive glass, forced just enough turnovers, and created the extra possessions needed to fuel one of the most remarkable rallies in recent WNBA history. But numbers alone don't tell the full story. What separated the Fever was resilience, toughness, and a collective refusal to quit. That's what makes this victory so much bigger than basketball. This is a team that has endured injuries all year, lost its emotional leader to what could have been a devastating knee injury, had to sign players off hardship deals just to stay competitive, and has been without its superstar Caitlin Clark for most of the season. Any other team would have waved the white flag, accepted defeat, and shifted their focus to next year. Instead, Indiana dug deeper than ever and produced a miracle comeback that spoke volumes about the culture and character being built inside this organization. Because in the end, comebacks like this don't happen by accident. They happen because of belief. They happen because role players step up when no one expects them to. They happen because a team refuses to accept the odds stacked against them. That's the foundation on which championship runs are built. And for the Fever, this might just be the turning point that changes everything. With 9 games left in the regular season, Indiana now sits at 19-16, 2.5 games clear of the 9th-place Los Angeles Sparks. But more importantly, they've proven something to themselves and to the entire league. If they play with this kind of heart, fire, and toughness, there isn't a single obstacle they can't overcome. And that's why this game will be remembered not just as a win, but as a statement. Indiana Fever are no longer the underdogs. They're a team rewriting their destiny that, if you believe this comeback deserves to be remembered forever, smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Fade Mirror for more stories that uncover the drama, the heart, and the magic of sports.